We're back. So, gentlemen, we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about Wolfman CB Shop, aka D-Win and D-Rail, and their father that started Wolfman CB Shop. How they started out in a little tiny hovel that they're big boys like me. I mean, they are big boys like me. And I just, as they're talking to me, I kept looking out the window of their current shop, which is gorgeous and absolutely streamlined for what they do. I kept looking out the window at the old shop, which, well, let's insert a photo of it here. Thinking, God, can you imagine trying to run a full-blown CB shop out of something that small? I got to tell you, their shop is one of the most advanced, well laid out, and professional shops that I've ever been to. I think the only one that's going to come close to these guys is going to be Brian over at Truck CB Sales. Speaking of Brian, on my way from Fat Boy down to see these guys, I stopped in and saw my buddy Brian. And I don't know if it's just the stars don't align right, or every time I get close to my buddy Brian, he's my friend. You guys got to understand, me and Brian are tight. We're buddies, right? We've been doing business with each other and fighting the good fight now for the better part of a decade and a half. We're friends, right? I went and saw him, and it was a chaotic mess, unfortunately, and I wasn't able to snag up an interview with him. I wanted to get one from him. He is probably, by volume, next to Walcott CB, the largest online realtor in the United States for radio products. And he's serious about his business. Probably got $1.5 million worth of inventory. No joke, when he goes to buy radios, he's buying hundreds at a time and not tens and 20s, like hundreds of them. It's a shame we weren't able to get any content with him, but it is what it is. This was coming to the tail end of the trip. I was starting to feel it. I'd been on the road at this point now for almost 30-ish some lot of days. And it was hotel after hotel after hotel after hotel. I was starting to really miss home, being here, getting to work on stuff. The number one thing is I miss my wife. I like her. You can't blame me, but she's a pretty friggin' awesome person. I just missed being home. And I recognized no matter what I did from this point on, I was a solid 3 days from home, right? I figured, well, while I'm down this direction, I should stop into Tulsa and a little town called Chandler, where half of my family is from, and go see my family down there. I'm literally driving right through. I might as well stop and say hi. Why not, right? I never get to see that side of my family. So I moseyed on down to D-Rail's shop. Now, cool thing did happen is I got in my phone and I set it for shortest distance instead of fastest time. Well, the shortest distance from where I was at Brian Smith's down to the top side of Atlanta, aka Georgia, where D-Rail's at, the way the interstate system's set up, there's this huge mountain ridge that runs between the top side of Georgia, the tail end of Tennessee and Kentucky. It's called Blood Mountain. Those of you guys that know. There is this beautiful, perfectly paved, windy, twisty, switchbacky 2-lane road that goes up through some of the most beautiful hollers and back portion woods of this country I've ever been on. It is not what I was looking for. I was looking for the fastest route. So what would have normally been like a 3.5 or 4 hour drive, I didn't realize it turned into a 7-hour long marathon of right, left, tree branch. Let's dodge, I got a big antenna on the back of the Suburban. Let's dodge this tree branch. Let's dodge that tree branch. I go up and go over the top of Blood Mountain. And when I come down on the other side, I am in rural Tennessee. And I mean rural. And, I used to play this video game called Far Cry 5. And it is set in Montana, and you're battling against this cult. And some of the themes of the cult was that, they put their big, yes, we can save you thing on this hillside. And they had a big, monument to the leader of the cult, and there was a gas station in the middle of town, which had a big eagle out front, and right next to the gas station is a big Baptist church, and right next to that's a bar. And man, I'm flying along, and I'm driving along, and I look over on this hillside. There's this big white sign that says, "Yes, we can save you." And I'm like, "Huh?" And I'm looking at the map, and I'm looking at how the roads are laid out, and I'm like, man, this seems really familiar to me. So I'm running low on gas. I don't really know where I'm at, so I'm thinking, I don't care what gas costs at this next gas station I come to, I'm going to stop. Well, there's this little 2-pump gas station right next to a repair shop that's right next to a church on the other side of a 4-way intersection. And there's a bar right next to the gas station. And then across the way is a little convenience store. And I'm like, no, what? And it's laid out just like the game. There's a big eagle on top of the gas station. There's literally a white Baptist church right on the corner with a big steeple. I'm like, what? So I pull in here, I get some fuel. It was expensive. I didn't care. It was neat. It was close to some gas station, so off in the background you could hear da 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 da. I'm from Idaho, where everything here is legal if you're willing to pay the tax stamp and fill out the paperwork, right? So it's not a big shock to me to hear gunfire. It's not. It's just people enjoying their Second Amendment rights, right? Well, it was neat because it sounded like the sounds from the video game. So I leave the gas station and I make it down the road about another mile, and there's these little tiny green Baptist churches with steeples on them with little parking lots on them, just like in the video game. And I come around the corner and there is this church, big church. It's called the Brotherhood of the Forgotten Wood. Google it and take a look at their sign and tell me that the parodies aren't hand in hand. Later on, I went and I looked at the map later that night. So I pulled up Google Maps and I looked at my route. If you take the map, the way you drive, and you rotate it 90 degrees, it magically matches up with the map in the video game. I mean, to a T. The bridges, the helicopter ports, everything. To a T. I would have never known that if I hadn't set the settings on my phone for the shortest distance. And it was beautiful. Beautiful rolling countryside. Nice, beautiful paved road. It was a driving moment where all I had to, it was gorgeous. Gorgeous. But I spent most of my time dodging trees, which kind of annoyed me. So I didn't get to talk a lot on the radio because I was too busy looking at trees and cars and 2-lane highway. But I was ready to get to derail. So by the time I got to derail, they were pretty much wrapping up the end of their day, and spent the evening with them. We went over and we looked at Derail Station, which was epic. He's got a huge amplifier there, which he is going to talk about. And I'd really advise you guys to stay for the end of the video where he makes a statement that I think it's up to him. He might have me take this out, but it is going to make some people have some controversial statements. But everybody's entitled to their opinions, right? It's on him, not me. It was fun. This was a fun stop. I spent a couple days with them. I went in the next day. I crashed because I was wiped out at this point. I crashed, got up that next morning at about 10 or 11 in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and went on back down to their shop because there's no hotels or anything. There's no structure around their shop other than just their shop because, well, they own everything, which I'm really proud of them. That's a hard statement to make. I own everything, right? Their business owns this whole, it's really neat what they've got set up, and their shop is very impressive. We're going to talk more about that here in a bit. But I showed up and there was some really, really, really cool gentlemen, except for one dude. He was a builder and just a little different. He started out his conversation with me telling me that he feels that he can build a 4-pill better than anybody else in the United States. And I just looked at him and went, cool. And then he backs up that statement with, but I'm having a hard time getting an 8-pill to work. So I listened to him and I said, well, you might want to think about putting this capacitor here and this capacitor here and maybe changing this to that, and you'd be surprised how it works. And he goes, no, I don't think that's it. I just looked at him and went, what do I know? And what do I know? I mean, seriously, what do I know? Who am I to tell anybody what to do ever? I just smiled and nodded, and he eventually left, and the other gentlemen that were there were kick-ass individuals, and we had a great time hanging out with them. They took off, and then we started this video. It was a fun day, and a fun night, and another fun day, and another fun night. We ate a lot at the Longhorn Steakhouse, because that was the closest thing that is to them. We've got one of those just right down the road from here, and the first night they paid, next night I paid, and it was good. The next morning I got up and I started my trip home. But we will be going back to the great state of Georgia to interview our friends Kingsnake, and to interview Godfather, and to interview hopefully All Power, and to interview Jack of Diamonds, and to Ebony, those kind of people. You got to understand, in the state of Georgia, in the one state of Georgia, there is probably 5 to 8 dudes that are all in the 50,000 watt plus club. And they're all within about a 45-minute drive of each other. So per capita, for density, some of the biggest names on the Super Bowl are in the state of Georgia. So we will be returning to that. I was planning on stopping and interviewing all of those guys, and that was part of the allure of the sales pitch for this, but there were some problems that took place. And I said, you know what, instead of us all struggling through this right now, there was one gentleman that was having some health issues, and another guy that had some other stuff going on, and another guy that had some other stuff going on. And it just wasn't going to work. It was a little bit too inconvenient. And I've learned at this point, instead of trying to push my agenda onto other people, just let it flow. And if it doesn't flow, don't go with it. That's a good way to put it. So, tired, ready to go home, been on the road for a month. Something that should have taken 1 or 2 days was looking like it was going to take 2 weeks. So we said, you know what, how about we pause the tail end of this, and we'll come back and do it in another deal. So I've got another road trip coming up this next year. Georgia is my #1 stop spot, and I'm pretty sure we're planning on going to Florida this year, and a couple stops in between. One of the places I really want to go is, well, a little town called Yazoo, but we'll get back to that. Gentlemen, it is time for D-Rail and D-Win to have their time in the sun. These guys were awesome hosts. They took very good care of me. I never, for one instance, had any feeling that I wasn't welcome there. It was great. They did everything they could to support what we've got going on, and they continue to do whatever they can to support anybody. I can call them at any time, and they're going to send something for a break. Everybody else does the same thing. They're always willing to give. They're always here to try and help. The knowledge that is accumulated in this young man's head, and I'm not talking D-Rail, I'm talking D-Win, by the way. D-Rail's pretty smart. But man, I would get tired and worn out if I had to deal with D-Win every day, because he is ridiculously smart. The amount of information these two young men have accumulated in their head from doing radio their entire adult lives is breathtaking. So gentlemen, the story of Wolfman CB.
Your friend tops out of Georgia using on out.
I'm not key, but I should. Hey, D-Red. I sure key. I let you know I got it on. 69 said bye.
R69 won't get him to holler at you. Let me pass this microphone to him. He just walked back in here. Oh, 69, I was outside listening to D-Rail's panel hum every time he was getting down on the mall. 69, your friend, BBI. Cruising through the Peachtree State, got down.
Alright, the BBI, you sounding good too. You sounding good on D-Rail station. Hey, BBI, you sounding excellent on D-Rail station there. Well done.
Now I'm going to enjoy this next little bit. I'll pretend that I am D-Rail Slow talking on derail station. Got down.
Well, you could call your twin. You could say your twin there. Call him your twin, Roger.
He sounds good on there. He's 69. He sounds good on there too. He don't even have to change his voice. He just talks normally. Still sounds fantastic. I'm listening to him on my headphone. He ain't got to hear himself yet. If he heard himself, he'd probably be keying it some more there, Breaker.
Yeah, boy, Roger. I call him your twin. There, Roger.
Folks, yeah. All right, man, I want to stay on here too long. I'll use it on back, man, see what else is going on. Somebody said they could hear me in the bighorn, so we might have a little bit of Mother Nature out there to Texas too there, Brayden.
Gentlemen, we're here today with the descendants of the original founder of Wolfman, correct?
Wolfman CB shop. Yeah, Wolfman himself. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, God, we got a lot of ground we can cover. A lot of ground. It's been fun spending the last couple days with you guys, last night and today.
Oh yeah.
It was neat to get to see your station. We're going to go see yours this evening. Where did this start from, and in what year? And we're going to go as much intricate detail as we can get as we go.
So 1991 is when our father started. You know, it was when the business started, and Darren can tell the history a little better. You can say it slow so people can follow or whatever. You know.
Yeah, because you have a tendency to go really fast. We're not in a rush today.
Well, we can start pre-1991, or we can start at 1991.
Just right
If
there
we
when he, you know, I mean, yeah, you can start why he started. That's cool. You know, that
Okay,
gives some
we-
context of why he started what he started.
We'll kind of hit on that if we want to.
I'll hit on the context of why he started, and then Darren can say how the history kind of started, you know, where my dad come from, where he come up there. So, back pre-1991, my dad used to tell customers in here as they would come into the shop, he'd say he walked around from CB shop to CB shop, wanting to be like E.F. Hutton. He said, when I talk, I want people to listen when I key the microphone. So he went around from CB shop to CB shop with a Visa card in his pocket and sucker on his forehead. And next thing you know, he had $4,000 in card debts. And by the time it was all said and done, from all these different shops and all these different places, a $7 stud was his whole problem, you know, with his system. You know, why he couldn't perform, why he couldn't get out. So he said, if this is what's available for competition out here, there is no competition on the road. He said, so I'm going to take what it takes to learn the business and put my nose to the grindstone. You know, so.
What did he do before that?
He is actually working in, wasn't it old, like a chicken plant
years
at one
ago.
point?
Yeah,
you know, and this is kind of where the first radio part started, they had little old two-way communication devices in there, and they were taking them to this guy, and they would, you know, take 20, 30 radios, and probably 25 out of 30 were coming back still broken, you know, whatever, they were getting taken in for repair. So Dad's like, okay, well, let me take a look at them. So he starts taking a look for the guys there that was, you know, supposedly had fixed them, and he fixed dang near every single one of them that wasn't able to be fixed. And there's something about our father too. He always just had loads of common sense. You know, he could take, it don't matter what it was. It'd be like a whole cluster for like a speedometer, you know, for the odometer. He sat there and take it back at all the little intricate, you know, do whatever he needs, LED, shoot it, you know. We had this one time that Casey, you know, a guy that's, you know, worked with us for years, his father, and then a couple other ones was over there looking at a saw, and man, they're like, you know, they've been in construction for 25, 30 years. They're basically beating the saw with a hammer, trying to get this blade out of here, and they're looking down here and, you know, tapping it, trying to pull it, doing whatever they can to get this little blade to release. And my dad just walks up out of the blue and he says, you know, let me see it, you know. So he grabs it and he looks at it. Oh, okay, there you go, you know, and hands it back. He's just that type, you know. He's, you know, lots of common sense to be able to look at anything and break it down.
So did you guys grow up like poor, or did your dad? You guys live in a really nice home, or did
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say we had a lot of money, you know. Trailer, you know, early on, you know, when we were younger. So, you know, I wouldn't say we were poor or struggling, but we were not, you know, well off or nothing, you know, by no means. You know, we weren't rich or, you know, nothing like that. But yeah, so there's where it started. That's where, you know, it all come from. And then Derek can kind of go into what my dad's, you know, went into to start the business.
That's kind of a rundown. There's not a lot of detail there because I don't have a lot of detail from him. I can kind of get into how many years it was for each spot. But originally, you can't really see this location, but this property we have now, we own. But before that property was a property that was across the street. There's a truck stop over there. Back years ago, before that truck stop even existed, there was the old Stuckey's truck stop. That was built, and everybody heard that's born years ago knows Stuckey's around here at least. It was a very popular chain. Well, Stuckey's went out, and when they went out, or he was actually behind the Stuckey's. He had a little old Toyota Chinook, little RV or whatever he'd set up back there, and he'd gotten it from our grandfather because I think they did some camping or something like that before. So he'd set it up, and then the Stuckey's went out, and Fuel City came right back up afterwards. Same building. He said one day he said he watched 9 truckloads of fuel coming in and out of that truck stop in one day. So that company's motto, the big thing was just knock their fuel price 1 cent lower than whoever else was next door. But so that business, for whatever reason, ended up going under. And after that went under, he actually lost his spot over there because they started building a new building. Another company bought it out. They were going to build a new truck stop. So he went home, which of course you can't see it in the shot. We may add some pictures later or something like that. The old little 12 by 16 building that he's had for 30 some odd years now plus. He went and built it at home. And when he went and built it at home, he got it all constructed, put it all together, built it the way he liked it, and went to move back across the truck stop, and they had closed down, or excuse me, they were not reopened. They had not finished construction. So he made a deal and moved on the property we're currently on, in the corner of the parking lot over by about maybe 500 foot from where we are now.
Old tire shop.
There was an old tire shop. It used to be back in the 50s. It was Bob's Service Station or whatever, and in the late 90s it was a tire shop. But he'd stayed over there for quite a few years, and then they expanded the bridge. They expanded the bridge and did a bridge expansion back years ago, and this property sold, so he moved across the street back to where he'd originally started, right at the truck stop. But he went to the corner of the lot, and then after that, of course, years and years down the line, we bought this property about 7 years ago or so. That's kind of the
only
history
you
of the
guys
shop.
bought it.
Yeah, we
owned
did.
it.
Yeah. And this was after everything had already moved from our father to us. So that's kind of speeding up. And
So-
you know,
Okay,
that's
so-
the history of the shop location, not
Right.
necessarily the full shop history.
I was going to say, let's back up. You skipped over about 20 years worth of
Oh
time.
yeah, that's just
Yeah,
jumping
yeah.
a lot of
New York
history there.
second.
That's the shop's movement. The shop's basically location. There was a short period in the
Yeah. I was going to say there's one other move too in South Carolina. We went to maybe a year and a half. Went up to Exit 4 in South Carolina. Basically had some guys from a truck stop. My dad puts it as kissing us in the ear, pretty much. Hey, but we got over there. We were successful. We're doing fantastic. Could have stayed there, but it's one of those individuals that couldn't remember what they said from day to day. We're just not going to be under somebody that's like that. So he always would say it's like I went to Egypt and then come back to the promised land. So
Okay.
it's back
All right.
home here at the 164. So
So your dad had the gift for tongue and swagger.
Oh yeah. He had the gift of gab. For sure. So.
I'm going to need pictures of him, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
sure.
Yeah, we'll have to share it. He'll be definitely
So-
seeing this.
Did your dad ever, out of the shack here next door, which I'll get pictures of and stuff, did you guys ever have a station that was set up in that shack or no?
Yes, he did.
To transmit. Yeah, many different, different radios, different boxes, different anything that would go on for 25 years. Basically.
One particular situation back years ago, he had a Sweet 16 Texas Star. This is back post Stuckey's, and then post this side of the parking lot. He was on the other side of the street, and on the corner of the parking lot. So about 20 years ago or so, something like that. He had a Sweet 16, and he had his antenna up 36 foot in the air, and he'd told us this dozens of times. And he was talking between two different base stations, and he was messing around about something, for one reason or another. But they got a good idea what his signal was, and later on, for whatever reason, something had happened to his antenna. I think the tree had fell or something happened. He got some beetles or something like that. So he decided, let's just go up a little bit taller. So he went up from 36 foot up to about 72 foot, and for one reason or another, he didn't have the Sweet 16 hooked up. So he that same exact station, those same exact signals, they picked up the same signal on him, 72 foot in the air, as he was 36 foot in the air without the box. So that's one thing you ran years ago was a Sweet 16 Some
And you're
Texas
probably more
Stars.
like to maybe
So
25,
without
30 years.
the amplifier.
Yeah, probably 25, 30 years.
70 feet in the
Yeah,
air without the amplifier, same signal level versus 36 feet with the Sweet 16.
That was
generator.
just local conditions, yep.
We done all the, also, this is way forward in history, but we did our own lot of testing too, you know, like realistic tests with base antenna over a mobile application, and it pretty much took about the equivalent of an 8-pill in a mobile to contend with what just a base station with a typical type setup would be, you know.
Of course, rudimentary test, not necessarily,
You know,
antenna
lots of
placement
variables to
being
it.
different. Yeah. But
So you're saying base antenna, 50-watt radio, 30, 40 feet off the ground versus an 8-pill in a mobile.
Pretty much, you know, that's pretty
I think we were at 60
pretty
foot
close
off-
comparison.
We were about 60 foot off.
Maybe
the ground.
60 foot
Yeah.
off the ground. It might have been 60, 70-watt radio, but you know,
Yeah.
same difference. Pretty
Yeah.
close.
Line of sight, elevation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
Trees,
Hot,
buildings.
hot as my.
Well, this was
you know.
a more like close on test. I don't remember.
Yeah,
Exactly
it was
how we did
local testing. We done some skip testing
Well,
too,
was it
you
the
know, but
308?
skip, you know, could be
Was
there.
it to like a local area?
I don't even remember exactly. It was somebody local.
Somebody
you know,
5 or
is
6
what we were
miles away or
testing,
something like that.
Yeah, and it was actually competing with the other station that was there too, you know. So it wasn't just like, hey, you're at S9.
It might have
and
been-
You're at S9.
it might have been
was
going up to
actually key
Clayton.
Yeah, it could have been.
believe it
Maybe
was
probably
Local-
Cracker, probably Georgia
Probably
Cracker.
Cracker.
Yeah. Georgia Cracker. Somebody's got a lot of history with us too. You know, he's a good person. Does a local roll call around here. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, he's
But
good people.
years ago, as our father, like some of the other stuff he did, he's always enjoyed his electronics in general. So anything and everything, he's always tinkered with it. And occasionally he would expand outside of the range of the CD range and mess with something else. Like he messed with home stereo stuff of his own, built his own home stereo system. Got to the point where he'd take his Calypso stand speakers and throw them outside, pull a truck across the parking lot, and be playing music and
Bouncing
creating
about.
a stadium effect in the entire parking lot. So
He had some
he had
fun
a lot
out
of
here.
fun
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
And he was a night owl, you know. So guys would come out here all hours of the night. He'd be up here at 3 a.m. in the morning, and people
Right.
coming in and knocking on here. Wolfman, you here?
You come in the door and he have some movie just blasting. The whole room we walls be shaking because he's
Yeah, yeah.
playing a movie in there while he's working doing something. But yeah.
What year were you born?
Born?
Yeah.
1990.
Yep. And 1991.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys quite recognize the advantage that you have against most of all the other CB shops is your youth
Yeah.
and your ability to see.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to watch you guys work today. I came in and spent the afternoon with these two gentlemen, and I just kind of watched how they did business, watched the customer flow come through the shop, and watched what they actually work on. You guys do not do any vintage repair. So no Cobra 2000s, no 148s, none of that. You can.
It depends too, yeah. And like we'll
And
have
if it's
specifics.
a good friend of the friend, yeah, okay, that's a different story.
Or if it doesn't need like all caps repaired and a bunch of repairs, you know, if it's something tune related, you know, maybe we might get into it. But if we know it's going to be one of those recaps, service, no, you know, just because we know it's going to take 3 or 4 hours and you see the people coming in the front door and how many people we got waiting, we just can't invest that much time into something so old. And it's not
You
worth
guys
it.
are primarily, this is your, today, at the day of this filming, you guys are primarily President, Striker, Ranger products, period, right?
Yeah. For the most part, Cobra, you know.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, well, there's a few Cobras here and there, but I mean, it's primarily Striker and
Yeah, Striker
Ranger
mostly,
and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we try to specialize in products that are going to give the most bang for the buck for the customer. So if we're going to set up a radio, say we just it's in the shot, just say that Connex radio over there, Connex 36 HPF. We could, for argument's sake, we could do every single mod within reason. Now, of course, there's differences in the mod to that specific radio, as we could to say like the best radio we can currently build, which is the 447. But the end result that the customer is going to get is not going to be the same. They're not going to have nearly as much range, nearly as much fidelity. The receiver's not going to have is going to have significantly more hash in the receive itself. It's not
More
gonna,
narrow, more noise, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the customer's going to get shortchanged.
The regulator's not going to be up to snuff. It'll be common to blow. Final output transistor can have failures. Doesn't have protections for SWR. Develops solder joint problems. So bad so that we'll pop a brand new Connex or Galaxy out of the package, brand new, and we'll immediately start fixing solder joints just the moment the cover's opened up, you know. And that goes for dang near every through-hole component radio that's still made. Even the Cobras, you know, they're just common to develop solder joint issues. And that's why we've kind of moved into better technology with the Presidents, the new style Ranger chassis, and the Strikers. or any tone too, for that matter.
SMD chassis.
Yeah,
in
SMD
particular.
chassis. They don't develop solder joints. In the 19 years I've been here, I've never had to fix a cold solder joint on an SMD chassis ever. They just don't develop. It's not a problem. Maybe you got a different problem with wiring bank or something else, but at least the solders are not the
And
issue.
the same
And
for
we-
me. The 15 years I've been here, entirety for me. And then our father had never expressed any issues whatsoever with any surface mount radio having a solder joint issue.
So a lot of people, and even we'll have customers tell us, like, "Well, I went to the CV shop and they said, don't get no striker. 'Cause you got to send it back to the factory if you got a problem, or these are common to have
after being in
issues."
the service industry, all Stryker's done is they've outsourced all of that stuff to other CV shops to repair it because they don't want to bother dealing with it.
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and in reality, it's most of the time it's that they're not familiar with the SMD chassis. They're maybe threatened by it or whatever, so they would rather dog off and say, no, don't get this, and you're going to have problems. You're going to have to send it here because technically they're saying, I don't know how to work on this, and you need to take it
Why
somewhere.
is it so hard for people to say they don't know?
Yeah,
is that? Why
I don't
is
know.
that?
I don't know. You're right.
That's a touchy
You guys
subject.
know that that's a pet peeve with me. If you don't
Yeah.
know, don't try and shift it. Just simply
That's
say,
a
I don't
touchy
know.
subject.
Yeah.
You would not believe how many people, and like that's not for us to decide what they're doing or not, or what they know or don't know. But there's a lot of stuff that's said on radios that's just simply not true. They're not a problem chassis. Now, early in the revisions, you could have an argument, say the finals on the original Strikers had FQPs in it, and the FQPs were bad about going out, which is true. But just like anything else, or actually in Stryker's case, unlike other radios, they actually saw the issues. Actually, the factory actually keeps a book of actually everything that's ever been repaired and what's been done and what repairs were done, and they come out with revisions on it. Just specifically, say this 497. I haven't gone over this with you. I've gone over it before with customers. They've had multiple revisions before, but just probably 10, 12 years or so ago, they started an R1 revision on the chassis. You'd actually look through and it says a bunch of numbers and it says R1 at the end. So that's revision number 1 of that specific series. That series continued forward until R26. So going forward, there's some there's some A's and some B's in there. But just say, for argument's sake, 26 revisions at a minimum, and then they started over, and looks like it's on a new number with 1 and 2. So 28 revisions in 12-year period, where to the same extent you
What
could
has
argue.
Connex done in 20 years? The red lights, the blue lights, bipolar to MOSFET. I mean, it's a dimmer switch. There's just a big difference in what's being done. And they know, like, the same solder joints has been developed in the PLL section of those chassis, that 3600 board that's happened 25, 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago, and happens present day. They have the same issues in the same areas and the same problem, and they refuse to do anything with it, And then we'll still have a lot of customers come in and say, man, why don't y'all do a lot of the Connexes and Galaxies anymore? Because that was the thing 15 years ago, But these are the reasons, They've been left behind. There's been so many changes been made, so many improvements with the other chassis. It's just, and then even cost-wise, the money somebody would pay for one of those Connexes with a full tune versus a Stryker 447 with better output and better anything, better talkback, better, I could say not better one thing. The Echo board that comes with the 33 HPC one, you might not see this in the shot, or the 36 FHP or HPF is a nice Echo board that they use.
Remember when we used to be able to say Galaxy 99?
Yeah.
And that was the end of the statement, not
Yeah.
99 V2 HP NP NTD
Yeah.
FM
Yeah.
YNG and
Well,
2DP.
yeah, a lot of different-
Oh my God.
Speaking on those, yeah, exactly. It's difficult. I'll be not getting too far into that, but that was a Eptos 3614B chassis with either a B50B or the Eptos B50B or Eptos B50C chassis.
And those the Echo board and the 447 to beat the brakes off of. But the board in those certain stock, the couple Connexes that we carry in here comes with a nice board. That's one positive benefit we can say. But as far as the talkback, you have a variable talkback set up with the Stryker that's perfectly great, no problems, no fluctuation. It's not filtered off of dirty audio taking the ground like those chassis where we would have to, like what you mentioned earlier, we've been building relay switching talkbacks, for 30 years, on those style chassis because of literally the talkback fluctuation and the instability of the talkback circuitry.
And it doesn't actually sound like what's going out the radio.
Yeah, exactly. And it, you move the volume control, the levels change, you do anything, anything's wrong outside, it's squealing and feeding back, so building something clean and stable is one of the things we did, back when, on those style chassis. But like going back to the regulator, it's like undersized. They still blow finals. They still develop solder joints. The talkback circuitry is not as nice. It's not SMD. There's no protection for voltage. There's no over SWR protection. There's no SWR readout on most of those chassis. So, and then output, you're at 50, 60 watts versus 100 watts. So it's literally like the receiver is extremely noisy. The noise floor is much lower on the Stryker chassis. Even out of the box. So just a lot of benefits for a radio that's $10 difference. So it's kind of where they're at with them. But we still keep them because they still got some old school guys. They want the Connex or they want the Galaxy or whatever. So
yeah. We really do try to maintain that that open-mindedness per se, because we've attempted mods on dozens of radios and lots of radios that we don't necessarily release mods on because that extra money you spend on that specific radio doesn't come out to be a benefit. So anything we're going to actually try to release and put our name behind, we're going to try to make sure that it actually gives you the result that you're looking for. So
a good example, just to follow that up, and I know we're getting out here in left field compared to like history or where we was, but just a good
run.
Just a good thing to kind of play off of that. A good example of that. Like I told you, you were asking about the Stryker, 955 version 2s, and where they just swapped over the designs completely, went to the Anytone Quad 5, style circuit board. And they're 402 packages, which is no big deal to us. A lot of the shops would say that, you can't solder 402, you can't work on 402, and as BBI seen today, we work on 402 all day long, every day.
Yeah, I got all kinds of pictures today of you working on stuff, and I'll be inserting that in the video around through here. But
and that's the thing I was going to get at with the version 2. Like, even though we can do a 5-band EQ on the version 2, we can do upgraded finals. There is an audio chain, there is an audio path. There's roughly around 15 components in that chain that is limiting bandwidth and a blockage for fullness.
I watched you take every single one of them out today.
Well, and that was a version 1 with Juice's radio.
Yeah.
But even with this version 2, same thing though, same concept, same deal. But with this version 2 chassis, going through that path, get all the work, put all that stuff in there, and does it sound good? Yeah. I mean, it sounds awesome. It sounds way better than a version 2 it ever sound with just a tune-out. Sound way better than one would just sound with out of the box and just a simple conversion. It's much better, but is it worth 5-band EQ and the upgraded echo board and hi-fi transmit? No, it's not. Because the money would be better invested into a 447, a 497, a 655 or 955 version 1, even a Ranger chassis for that matter. There's several different better choices that will get you to a better end result. Yes, it sounds better. Yes, it's worth improving. But like Darren said, sometimes we don't release stuff. I haven't released that I can do hi-fi, receive, and transmit to the version 2 955s that everybody says you can't really do nothing with. We were changing hard components the day we got the demo from Stryker,
prototype over here,
4 or 5 months before the radio's released. Maybe right. Sooner than that. I had it doing 130 watts PEP, the day we received the radio.
55 V2 prototype, and you still in the original V1 box.
Yeah, and you still have people saying now that, the version 2 doesn't do as much output. The output's not an issue. That's not a problem. Where the issue is the digital stuff. They got their own limitations in the digital, layouts, some kind of IC or deal they got built in. Because what I hear is like a, I even mentioned in one of my YouTube videos, it's like a continual noise gate. It's like a real harsh, like an inrush of your voice, like whoosh, it's just a sharp, and then it clamps your voice. It doesn't allow it to open, be full. It's unnatural. Is a good example for it. And then when you try to branch out of that box and open that chain, it pulls out a little bit, but it's still just an overall more squished down sound. It doesn't get wide and dynamic, like the other chassis do. So
I think it's a good place for us to take a quick little break. What do you guys think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Gentlemen, I just want to jump in here real fast. I want to say a big shout out to my homeboy 12 that stepped up. reached out to me about a year and a half ago and says, what do we got to do to get more content like what you've already created? If you guys don't know, there's a whole series of these videos that are out. They're all grouped together as a playlist on YouTube called Spoken Word. It's got Bullet Bob Burns, it's got 766, it's got 63, 300, Motormouth Mall, Pennsylvania Pimp, Tom from Mako, Mud Duck Sharky, Tony from Fat Boy, my good friend Motown. That's just to name a few. There's a whole bunch of these videos. If you enjoy this video content that I'm providing for you right now, go check it out. There's a whole bunch more of these. There's probably 22 hours worth of interviews. 23 or 24. 26 by the end of this one. Anyhow, the other people I want to give a big shout out is to my Patreon guys over here. They get exclusive content. They get an update on what's going on almost on the daily, what's over here. I try to several times a month create some kind of exclusive content just for them. They get access to everything. Anything comes up for sale, they get it a minimum of 48 hours before it goes out to the public. There's a ton of stuff that goes on that channel that on Patreon that does not make it to the Facebook group ever. Pictures and so on and so on and so on. The main thing is that I work on a one-to-one system. I produce the content and then I turn it over to all of you, either with giving me a thumbs up or clicking subscribe or coming and joining the Patreon group. I just turn it over all to you guys to see what you want to do. Patreon is, well, a paid subscription. It costs $1 a month. $1. I would have set it lower, but Patreon won't let me do it. I figure $1 a month for what I do, it's enough, right? It helps offset the cost of the cameras, the microphones, the computer software programs, the time invested in creating not only videos like this, but every single one of the videos that I produce, because everything gets a video attached to it that is getting repaired over here. Every single thing. It just helps. It spreads the load. Because YouTube doesn't pay for anything. It's, I don't know, if you're getting 14 million views a day, then I could see there'd be some money in it. Not for us radio enthusiasts. We do it because we love the hobby, right? So if you could, you might want to think about coming and subscribing and following along. I mean, if you like the content, help provide more. And then you'll get your name on the list at the end of every single YouTube video. Gentlemen, we're going to go back over and go talk with D-Win and Derail some more. This goes on and on and on. We've got hours worth of content to come yet. So you're not going to see a whole lot of my beautiful face in here. You're going to be looking at these two guys talk. So on that note, D-Win and Derail, Wolfman CB. All right, so we started down the rabbit hole of radios, which I know is your guys' favorite topic because I've been listening to y'all talk about it all day. All day. Let's back up. Let's jump back to when your pop's still in the shop, and I'm assuming was still over here in the corner of the lot. Mm-hmm. When did you guys start becoming more active other than just running around with diapers hanging around your ankles?
14 is when I officially started, full time, with my dad.
And then 17 for me. It took me a couple of years to finally make up my mind. I was invited earlier, but I decided
17, I was a little bit too busy trying to figure out what girls' boobies looked like. I was thinking about, oh my God, what I got to do for a living.
I wanted to stay home a little longer, and I thought I could do a little bit different than what I did, but it didn't work out. I decided to come to work.
So you guys started out doing what, install work and all that stuff?
Basically, like I was telling, I think it was Joseph in here earlier today. We started out building coax pretty much. We come in here and hey, I need you to build 30 pieces of coax. Okay, we cut 30 pieces of coax and we're literally just build, and that went on for a while. Of course we get little tidbits of information around while we're here. But coax. After that, it slowly turned into learning SWR, how to tune antennas outside, mounting, doing installs, simply, doing power cord type stuff, a microphone, whatever was simple. So it was like a slow progression, which is good. I really think it's great because it gives you a foundation for soldering, because by the time you're we got to the radios, we could solder whatever we wanted to without having to worry about damaging a trace or hurting anything, or had a really good foundation that way.
To hit on the history for a second before we go beyond a little bit, our father had actually gone as far as actually designing a little board, and this is kind of gets into some of the stuff that he did. He had this little box, a little silver box, and it had 2 coax connectors in it, and it had an on-off switch. It had a green light and it had a red light, and I think it had a red light for the on switch. So you flipped it on, red light turned on, plug one coax in on one side, plug coax in on the other side, and you'd take the coax and you'd ring it around, take the other coax and you'd ring it around, and if you'd made a mistake, if there's ever even just a second of a short, boop, goes to red.
It blinked
Stays
red.
on, it'll
blink or it either hold down.
I think the latter generation would stay red, but yeah, it would blink red. It would blink. You see the little red light.
Blink every time.
Blink.
Yeah.
So what I was talking about is that it had a little tiny transmitter and a little SWR comparator bridge in it, something along that lines, correct? And so you were hooking the coax ends on your jumpers that you were making and shaking them around, and it was giving you a pass or fail.
Yeah, that's right. And it would even tell you open short. The green light would go off if it didn't make contact flowing through.
It would show
so open or shorted connection, either one. We got to test, kind of fully all the way through, without
we
using
wouldn't even need
imaging.
a comparator circuit or an amp. It just need some kind of signal source in a voltmeter
Yeah,
configuration.
later on he had like a quad. He built it with a quad op amp. The quad op amp, the way it ended up working is it would actually stay off. It would actually, when it tripped, it wouldn't reset. The other one he did previously, the earlier generation, was it was like a transistor based. It was multiple transistor stages. The way he had it set up, I don't remember the circuit. It's been too many years. But yeah, now I cheat a bit. We'll get say a rig expert, whatever. Plug the analyzer in, have it on constant sets, have it on say 8, and monitor every single aspect about it and see what changes as we're testing an end or testing coax or testing anything really.
So you come to work at 14, you're at 17.
Yep.
And what was the favorite thing that you were doing? What was the number one thing? Cobra 29, antenna, coax, what was the number one? Like in the stereo world, we call it a deck and two, which means the front deck, you're going to change out the head unit, and you're going to change out your front 2 speakers.
Back
then, when you guys started, what was the number one thing you were hanging on the side of the
We
truck?
didn't jump straight to radios. Like I said, 14 years
you
old.
were doing coax.
Yeah,
you were doing
exact.
install.
Coax,
Right.
microphones, install. So I didn't probably get my hands in a radio until maybe 15 or something. But other than maybe some piddle, something, whatever, but not like a real tune, actually tuning one out. You had to
it was
get some
incentive based, basically, pretty much.
Yeah,
the way
So
we,
he's paying you on commission.
yeah, it was commission based. So
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
what jobs we did is what we made money off of. If we sat down there twiddling our thumbs, we didn't make any money. If we got out there and hustled and did some work, we'd make some money.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what was the favorite radio that the drivers were installing? What was the favorite antenna?
Probably at that time period, I'd have to say General Lee, Galaxy 99, like
It was
many people
transitioning
would
to
say,
some degree.
transitioning from 99 to General Lee pretty much in that time period.
Yeah,
We did a lot of the General Washingtons around that era too, because
Yeah.
some people just didn't like the Rebel flag, or whatever. Same exact radio, just American flag versus Rebel flag.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, we sold the mess out of them radios. And as far as our bench, you was talking about, like, we did run different stations. That kind of transitioned from a 2950 back in the day, with my father, to a Galaxy 99. This is kind of where our, what transitioned to what we were selling, primarily back then too. Then into the General Lee and General Washington, speeding forward even further. Galaxy 55 HP was the top.
For a very short period of time, we went back to the 99 just because it's somebody liked talking on. But
Yeah, Galaxy 55 HP was a very, very big thing for us, because it's really the first thing that really started custom stuff. Cool little story about that, and I had built out. This was going to be a radio for my. Sorry, I don't have my phone muted.
You're the last one in the conversation to do it. I did it when I started, then he did it just a second ago. So.
I was decking out a radio. I was building it for my pickup truck at the time, and this wasn't my first radio, but this is when we really got into the really custom stuff. So it was a General Washington. It's a really nice radio. It had chrome covers on it. It was immaculate, super clean, blue lights. I had blue jeweled knobs all across the face of it. You know, it just looked perfect. I had it
Need
wrapped
nitro
up.
lights, I think.
Yeah. I even actually did. I built nitro lighting behind all of the jeweled knobs, so it's a halo effect behind every knob. You know,
Right.
he built it out, done our full build with relay switching, talk back. Sounded great. Sounded awesome. You know, excellent, just like it should. And I wrapped it all up. You know, I set it up here, and then I was like, I was asking my dad, I was like, Dad, what do you want me to build next? He's like, grab that 55 off the shelf. There's a Galaxy 55V. I was like, okay, cool, you know, no problem. I grabbed the 55V, you know, slide back over there. I, you know, pop it open, do our build to it, set it up, and I was like, oh, this thing's out no echo. I was like, yeah, go ahead and just put one of those LT2Ns in there. No problem. Okay, I popped that board in there, got it all built, got it all put together, you know, and then listened to it, and I said, I kind of paused for a second, and then I, you know, keyed up, you know, listened again, and then I grabbed that, you know, General Washington, grabbed that General Washington, and I set that thing up on top of the shelf, and I said, okay, this thing's for sale. I said, I'm taking this one. So, you know, I took the Galaxy 55 HP, and
Dude,
we found out.
everything's for sale.
And,
Everything's for sale. Yeah.
yeah, and then literally, you know, that where that come from is I literally found that it was the echo board. It was the difference. You know, that's what made the difference. Like, you know, these other chassis, you're limited to whatever they got. The Galaxy 99 and Eptos B50C, General Lee, Eptos B50C, General Washington, Eptos B50C. You know, those were the style boards that they were using in those chassis, and that was the limitation in those chassis for sound quality. So what made the 55V different wasn't because it's a Galaxy and this one's a General Lee or this one's a Connex 3300, because they all had a 3600 chassis. What made it different was the echo board. And then, okay, there comes the thought, you know, okay, hang on a second, you know, so then, you know, then that's probably where I guess the start of the custom stuff.
We can change this?
Yeah, the things above the normal, you know, and even our stuff, like what we called, you know, my dad called his tunes a full build. So it was still way above the norm, because most of your CB shops, they're going to, you know, clip a limiter, you know, they're going to twist an AMC adjustment. They're going to do very, very little. And then if they do more, they're going to do some modification they found somewhere online where they put a diode in line with, you know, a 5.6K at R238 to make a swing circuit, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, you know, and it's trying to, you know, take all your modulation off of one source, and it's, you know, it's distorted. It's not a good modification.
Let's go on the watt meter.
Not good to do. Yeah, let's get on the watt meter. But even back then, back in the day, 25, 30 years ago, my dad was already manipulating multiple points of resistance throughout the audio chain, which was very different than what you would see anywhere else. He was already building a relay switching talkback, which was different from most anywhere else, because nobody, maybe Clay's back in the day is the only thing I can think of in that 25, 30-year-old zone that was building relay talkback back then. And most of your CB shop, why you do this? What's the use of that? It comes with talkback. You know, hey, what do you put this in here for? We'll take this mess out. You know, or another one will look at it and say, well, this thing's booby trap. You know, and put it back together. We've had many interesting conversations, but even his build for his time frame, he was above, you know, and he had a big name, you know, in the industry with drivers everywhere. A lot of people knew Wolfman, you know, so. Yeah, but that's where the custom for well, I guess me, you know, even before you, really started with. So I guess that's where it kind of branched off of for us. And then every little single modification that come after was literally with a thought. You know, it would be just something like, man, I wish I could have this, or I wish, you know, I could do this, and then why can't we? You know, we build it, we design it, we put it together, we make it work, and we make it happen.
Yeah. And really my thought process, the thing that kind of forced me to do extra things in general, just was interest. I was interested in the hobby. I was interested in radio. I was interested in coax. I was interested in why things work. I wanted to know more. So that's what got me into the realm of research that I did. That's what got me in some crazy obscure research paper over here, some weird data sheet over here, and I was just very interested. I wanted to know more about the circuit. I wanted to know why it did this. I wanted to know for what reason. And even coming out of high school, before I even actually graduated, we had like this work program or whatever, and it was allowed you to work and go to school at the same time. So I'd already the grade before, I'd already had 2 of my periods, or half the school year, that was dedicated to going to work. But I went a step further and started college. I started technical college at least, because I wanted to learn more about electronics. So I was like, let's do this. Let's go to school. Let's see what I can learn. So I got into AC1, DC1, and a little safety in the beginning. And as I did, it kind of promoted an interest in me to kind of dig into even more. It just kind of the I guess appetite for knowledge kind of wasn't really satisfied with that. And then if I had continued there, it wouldn't have led to the field that I wanted to. So what I did was I actually figured out a better way to continue my research. So I kind of got with engineers and found people who had the knowledge that I was looking for, and found the papers and the things that they had written up.
Surrounded ourselves with people, a
Exactly.
lot smarter, because that stuff rubs off.
It put us in
over
a much better
time. It does,
situation. Yeah.
and they might even just release just like a little. Hot.
It overheated. Give it a minute. We'll come back
All
to
right, no
that.
That's
Keep
good.
going. So you surrounded yourself with the knowledge.
Yeah.
Surrounded ourselves with knowledge, and even if it's just a little little tiny piece of information, they might say microhenries or inductance or whatever. They drop a phrase, and okay, let's research the phrase. Let's see what they're talking about. Let's try to start reading. Let's start understanding. Because some people might just throw that term out loosely and not even know what they're talking about. We wanted to understand what it was and how it worked. So that was part of the drive, and kind of in line with you. For me, it was caring about what we do. It makes a big difference with anybody in any job in any field. If you hate what you do, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do a great job at what you're doing. To me, this is a job, a career, and a hobby. I love it. I really enjoy it. So loving that and enjoying it and having my own station and having that drive to always want to make my stuff sound better, be greater. Literally, that's where the crazy modifications come from, because I'm always striving to beat what I've already got. Because like Darren would tell you, we're not one to say, okay, I've got this build this specific way, done this way. Nobody's getting this. This is for mine. That's not us. Us is we're open book. We're gonna build this sucker just exactly like mine's built, and it's done. And everybody's is gonna be done that way. But because everybody's is done that way, I'm so competitive. This guy's got this. I gotta beat this. I gotta take this to the next level. How can I elevate
What's the next
this?
step? What do we
What
gotta do?
can I do to make it to the next level? So I'm always thinking, what I can do next to bring it better. I'm never stationary and saying, this is good enough. This is fine. This works.
Yeah, even to this day, we've got other avenues we're coming up with, and as of 6 months ago, we've had updates to the build that we've previously done, and we're constantly trying to modify that in a better way.
So he finally lets you put hands inside radio. Mm-hmm. When did the day come where you were the one here by yourself and your dad was at home?
You may have to help me with time frame a little bit,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna say
20.
when I come in, Dad had already been doing it for 13 years. So from 1991 when he started, I started in 04. Okay, that's a critter. He may want to.
Yeah, this might be another time for us, so we just need to take a quick break.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right, so before we got rudely interrupted by the gentleman that was actually doing fun, happy, productive things for you, just trying to call and say he was coming by, but, you just want to answer your phone, doing
Just
YouTube
couldn't
videos
pick
way
up the
more
phone,
important.
buddy.
All right, so you were able to come to work by yourself for the first day. And I'm assuming it was you that came to work the first day by yourself. Or was it both you guys?
Well,
We
it wasn't
years.
even completely it didn't just go from there to straight by myself. It was
No,
actually kind
he was here every day, and then eventually
It kind of
the reins
branched
got
off into
handed
shifts.
over.
Is actually kind of the way that it worked, and it was like a slow transition. It was just started with me just being on the accounts and stuff with Dad, and signing on, and then he slowly pulled back and pushed up. And then where we say we got into the really custom stuff. That's kind of like what CV shops do now. Somebody walks in there and says, "Man, I want some bass in here. I want a variable, whatever." Man, you better go see D-Rail. My dad did the same thing. They'd come in there and they'd say, "I want this 29 to do 50 watts like you had done for so and so," or "I want this," and go to second shift and see derail. That's what my dad would tell him.
So were you working days or were you working nights?
So I worked the second shift, with my father, or not with my father. Actually, my dad did the first shift, and then I did second shift. And actually, I think at that point it would have been Casey. Was you with me?
Yeah, we're all together.
Okay. So I was trying to think, because even there's a lot of different weird transitions with our hours. It's hard to keep track. Because even at one point we were 3 shifts.
Yeah.
We were.
I was morning, he was second, and Dad was third.
Yeah. So we've done
Night owl.
Yeah. We've done.
Yeah, he's always been a
He
night owl.
always has. Yeah. And but the transition was slowly, like, went on the accounts, went further with the modifications. It become where I was updating my father with the builds, and then he'd say, okay, we're doing this now. And it was really, really cool because he respected me enough. He's like, okay, he'd pop them in there, no questions asked, whatever, So, but at that time I was running stations in my trucks, building a lot, building my own clientele, my customers, and people knowing who I am. Outside of Wolfman, and that's something else too. I know I'm kind of going a little all over the place, but we always wanted to pay respect to our father. We had a million different situations. We could have changed it to derail and D-Win or derail audio or whatever we wanted to name the shop, but we wanted to be respectful of the history of where we come from and what the shop come from, and that's Wolfman, our father, Wolfman CB shop. So we never intend to change that. But where I was saying, where we got into really custom stuff, he was kind of stationary. He had his build, he did his trial and error time. He come up with a tune that he liked, the build with the relay, the full build's what he called it, and that's where he was willing to stay. And then maybe I would do updates to that build, like change the amount, like we might use an NPC, change the values of the NPC, maybe change some points of resistance, add a little component for a little bit more body, do this little cap for a little bit more gain. Little subtle changes to that build to kind of perfect it, and he may update that, but it never got into things that he would want to start doing, like
At that point in time, he was done with his R&D, and what he was doing was what he was doing. If we chose to go further with it, he would follow along and work with us. But it was our baby. If we're going to mess with something, we're going to check that. We're going to work it out. And D-Rail had already made it a point to check and even double check his own work to make sure it's actually going to be a benefit. So it wasn't a thing where our father's like, well, I'll just go back and check and make sure it's actually a good mod. It was, hey, I know you've went through the effort. I know you went through the trial and error to figure out whether this actually truly works or not. Sure, I trust you. We're going to go with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he would hear me daily too on my own stuff, and I get to be like, I'd ask my dad his opinion, I'd be like, so Dad, what do you think? What does it sound like? It kind of sounds like God. You get little comments like that. I was like, okay, cool. It sounds good then. So it was but he was always super, super supportive, and and really rock solid foundation. We could not have been more blessed to be brought up in this. With literally getting a 13-year jump head start, foundation solid like that. That's a huge head start from where we started. And to get to start so young, and I'm 33, Darren's 32 years old, and to be, we still going to go a long ways. We don't plan on stopping or getting content or being happy with where we're at in that niche. We're gonna keep pushing the limit, taking it further. And
so I'm going to interject a picture here, and in this picture is what I call derail has a problem.
It's competitive, is what my dad always said.
So. We were at your station last night, and we were looking at some stuff, and you had a stack of radios there that, there had to have been 25 grand worth of just radios sitting there that were R&D radios for you that you've been playing with at home. Mm-hmm. Just in that envelope, and those are all Stryker 955 version 1s, V1s. How many different iterations and modifications in the audio chain between the first one of those radios that you were playing with to the last one? Because you're not even working with the Strykers anymore now, right?
Well, the Stryker version ones we're still building a lot of, like Juice was working today.
No, what I'm saying, on your own station, you're not.
I'm not using a 955. Yeah, exactly. I'm using a 447. But to be fair, the 447 HPC2, very similar chassis to the 955 or 655 version 1. Very similar, lots of similarities, built by the same company, similar audio chain, similar circuits.
How many different iterations between those 20 grand worth of radios?
A lot. I would have to say that it literally started with one cap, and that might have been the interest of where that started with. We went to, Man, I'm trying to think.
I would say we're the reason that he has it on the website.
I don't know. Because it started literally with where we would do our full tune out, and we're literally modifying 1 point of capacitance to manipulate bass, and that come from reaching out to Sean at Stryker, where it's like, hey man, how can we get some bass out of this thing? I want some bass, here. So I kept going back and forth with him, about any kind of circuit, and I'm pretty sure Sean gave us a circuit, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
It was C37, I believe.
No, C527.
C527, maybe, yeah. But
or 5? Oh, goodness.
528, maybe.
536 or 527.
Oh, who cares? It's a circuit in there.
Sure 527.
But anyway, he gave us that, and actually. The purpose of the circuit then is the way the original Echo board is and everything else, the highs, the way they kind of roll off in the chassis. It was actually to correct the bass, because early on they used like 100,000 picofarads, 104, and it was over the top. It was like a little muddy. It wasn't very clear. And we were actually kind of venturing into like studio microphones and stuff like that. But it all started with that one circuit, and then after we done that, we even went as far as getting a capacitance substitution box. We had this sucker probed in there, and we could click to all these different values and levels. And I had a studio microphone that I had wired to it. I was doing the aftermarket Echo board, way back then, because you realize that was an improvement over the stock Echo board that the mud we were trying to pass through originally there. So that was another change. And capacitance substitution boxing with this. But so many different revisions. It's really, really hard to say, because we might have actually from there it might have went to like four more components in the chain. When we found other paths. But this had to be done on our own. Then from that point, we didn't have
realistic revisions. I mean, we could say well over 20 revisions.
Yeah, it's been a lot of changes, and then some subtle, some not.
You had 20 more options to modify that just in that one picture, because each one of those switchers on that radio is a 3-position switch.
When I say revisions, I say as an overall, as a whole, the full change. And individual,
we might have 5 circuit changes, and that'd be like one update. Like say, hey, we got updates for this radio, but there's 5 component changes.
So individual component-wise, all the different changes. If you can I changed this many parts this time. I found this many circuits this time. I modified this many circuits this time, and I changed to something different. Probably
if you figure there's 30, 40 different circuits, and we probably ran those circuits in 5 or 10 different values. There could be lots and lots of changes there. But it's literally it's not something we just let's do the math and let's calculate what this bandwidth is needed for this circuit or this value and say, there it is. You just put this in here. That's what stays. We would we'd use that as a reference. Build out that way, and then literally we'd select everything. It didn't matter what modification, what circuit. It was all put on a flip switch or a variable, to where you could hear it on the fly. Because nobody can hear. You could solder in a capacitance and change a point of something for roll off on bass, try to get some more body in there, and change that in there and listen to it. Go back to it again after you make the change, listen to it again, you're not going to hear the difference of what you did 5 minutes ago from before or previous to after. There's nothing controlled about that. But put that sucker on a switch where you can go flip, 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 literally hear the differences like that in audio. That's the only way you can hear it. So literally every single circuit, every modification has pretty much been on a flip switch or variable of some sort.
And then going further on that, there were dozens and dozens and dozens of extra components and extra different circuits and potential options and things like that turned out that on paper, this looks good. This should be this. Sound like crap. I don't know how else to say it. Just junk. It wasn't. It's just one of those things. It's not going to work out. Doesn't matter how much on paper it worked out. It did not work out in the actual field of actually trying to run. So there's a ton of our stuff that actually we made sure was tried and tested, because we went solely toward one side or the other, went towards, hey, I want to try this circuit, or I want to do this stuff by the book, based off it should be this all the way throughout. It's not how it works. It did not turn out that way in the end. It was to the point where we needed to make sure each and every circuit that we did was tried and tested, and it was a benefit to the audio. So there's actually updates to our circuits that we've actually gone back and said, no, That's not a circuit that we want to operate with anymore. It's
Or-
better if we change to here.
Even today, like a situation in the past, like 357, skip shooter, he come down and we did his radio 3 years ago or so for him. And in the past, we'd manipulate one point of resistance to a value that actually allowed us to get more bottom because we were searching for more bottom. We needed it through the chain because we didn't have enough through the chain. To
We
get
need
the-
more bass. Everybody needs more bass.
Yeah, everybody more bass.
Gets you closer to the hand of God if you got more bass,
But we were searching to get more bottom in and fullness and literally hitting every value we can and had to use a point of resistance to get there too. And it worked and it sounds good and he compliments for years and years and years out of it. But now that we've gotten so far in the chain, we have so many things that like what you want to say in your arsenal or whatever, we got a final tailoring circuit now that we could take to 10 million if we want to, and we roll it off at 100,000 or 220,000 at the highest, and can go all the way to 10 million. That's how much headroom we have left to get as much bass as you could ever ask or want for. So now we can go back to those components that we would have utilized to try to get that extra gain for bass and use them for what they are for the highs, getting the top end range, and hit the bass where it needs to come together and be more dynamic in the end.
And then you could hit on an argument's sake there, just for bass in general. And now, of course, it was said jokingly per se, but it's all about a balance. We can swamp out the circuit with the craziest bass you ever heard, and it would sound worse than any of our radios have ever sounded because it doesn't have the highs to mix in, doesn't have the range to create that
Dynamics,
fidelity that needs that dynamic range to be able to actually sound good.
So, okay, going back in reverse one more time. You guys are fun.
We're gonna do that a few times.
Yeah, no, this is part of it. So, when was it that the idea came, or what was the situation that happened to where you guys ended up having to take over and take sole control of this place?
It's really more of Dad ready to kind of semi-retire and sit back a little and just really pulling back and letting us shine, I guess you'd say.
It's like a slow progression where he just
slowly over time,
he'd be out for a couple hours here, and then might be not coming to work another day, stuff like that, and we would still be working, doing stuff. It's
not something I ever had to say like, "Hey, Dad, here's $50,000 or $100,000 now. Can I have it?" It's pretty much freely given. Literally. And then of course, we still took care of him, and even to this day, still do too. Anything he needs. I don't even remember the transition for that. That would be difficult, but
He's
04.
still alive.
I'd say, oh yeah, he is. He's still living. Yeah,
Okay.
he did have a stroke in 2016. July of 2016, and has not even been on his feet since the stroke of 2016. But well before that, I was probably running the shop since 2010, maybe. What would you say?
2010, 2011.
And then maybe 2011. Could even been 2012, maybe. And then speed forward another couple of years, and Darren, which Darren was already here too, and eventually we split it and shared it, but just like it was freely given to me, it was freely shared with Darren, because he's been, it's family, it's business, it was it was something that's, given to us by our father, and that's something that should be shared. He's here, and it's both of us, so, I know I'm about to step out.
I thought it was really cool because I was always underneath the impression that you worked for him.
No.
That's why when I asked you yesterday, so it's a 50-50 split. And both at the same time, without any hesitation, with no facial deflections, I was watching. Both you guys are like, no, 50-50.
Yeah, it's 50-50, yeah.
Right.
It is, yeah.
Basically, it's really confusing, the dynamic that we have, because...
No, it's not, now that I've been here and I've watched you guys run for a day. No, it makes perfect sense.
And then, just to be completely transparent, I take slightly more than Darren does, and that just due to the fact of time
we already
frame.
talked about that for years.
Time frame of just being here, but it's still literally like if you split the business for our S corp, is that what you call it? It's 50-50. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
But and that's the way our business is. If we ever sold the business, it's 50-50. That's the way we look at it 100%. And now. Go, way over to left field. We was talking about all the custom modifications and everything we do to the radio. That's everything. That's not just this striker, this circuit, this chassis. That's echo boards, that's microphones, that's speakers, that's headphones, that's literally antennas. Every part of our business is like shot out, tried, tested, put against each other, and literally like tried to get the best thing that works for what we use. And a lot as our radios like progressed through the years, and as we got better and better with making the chassis sound like really cool collage. I think somebody mentioned on another interview before would be like going back and listening to my sound back in 2011, and then like just going back up through the years and literally hearing the difference because that would be a perfect example of updates through the years. And where we had it wrong in the past, and where probably a lot of people could still be getting it wrong now, and this could be helpful to some people, is we chased bass. Gotta have that bass. So we're sitting there, we did a $30,000 microphone shootout. This is how far we went with our microphones.
That, yeah.
So we tested all the way up to the Neumann U87, which is a $3,500 microphone. We had Mojave Audio with the tube style microphones, $3,000 mics. And then literally had all the way down to little $5, $6, $10 superstar microphones, pro truckers, everything you can literally imagine out there. Went to all these different deals, and in the end, for like the studio microphones, just to release this information, it's not hidden to anybody. It was a Neumann TLM 49, $1,700 mic. That won the shootout. That was the best condenser microphone of all the mics we tested. The test was fairly well controlled for what it could be. It was a Cobra 2000. It was just direct injected, so there was no limitations to the audio chain.
Right.
And there was a 3-band mixer, little Behringer board, so a high, mid, and a low. Multiple channels, because you have to compare it next to something. You got to have a standard as you're testing through. So it was a very simple, easy, controlled test that we did live over there on CB. Because we want to see like how this studio stuff's going to correlate to what we do. So
it's just going to sound good in a monitor, because that does not correlate over there.
Yeah. A lot of people try to plug into like the monitor, hook up on that, or monitor on their DOSI, or monitor on their computer, or even take recordings and make it seem like this is their really talking. But live over the air, truly demodulated through another receiver is a whole different world, But we were going down that path of bass, looking for bass, And in the end, we come to realize that was the wrong path, because trying to look for this microphone with this bass and this heavy sound stuck us in a box that you can never get out of. You get that bass, that heaviness, then you start doing modifications of the radio, you can never get out of mud. You're just stuck in that zone. Like I was saying in here earlier, you got that to your highs, or you got that, muddy, Charlie Brown type stuff, just doo-doo, not good. So we found out that the path of going forward to really get it dynamic and layered is find something open. Old school, really, kind of like an old D104 power microphone, something that passes a wide open frequency response that carries the highs there. And then our modifications to the radios was super clean bass. There was no mud there, So as we're doing all the modifications, boosting and hitting these circuits harder and harder, this mic is maintaining its top end to balance with those heavy lows. And when it all come together, you got this heavy full sound, and still didn't run out of your high end range to go with that. So then, through multiple different years of testing microphones, because we didn't stop at the $30,000 test after we'd done that 8 or 10 years ago. Every 2 years, we would do it again and again and again. Not to the extent of $30,000, because we found out studio mics is not the route that we wanted to go. And to sidestep on that just for a second, the reason, one of the reasons we decided that route is a local shootout. I was actually doing a shootout locally. I was using a Heil PR40, which was the winner of the dynamic test, by the way, when we done that $30,000 mic shootout. So I was using a Heil PR40 microphone. I had both of them. I owned the Neumann TLM, because I'm going to buy both of them, both the ones that won. I'm going to test them suckers out. So Heil PR40, used that on my station, used it for a few years, and this would have been back 2014, 2015, maybe it could have been 2015, 2016. Used it, and I was doing a local shootout with another local, can't remember his handle, but he was within 20 miles of the host, and I was 50 miles from the host. I had more power to kind of make up the difference, to kind of balance it out, but it's hard coming over top and through somebody that's 20 miles from a host when you're 50 miles away. So we were locking up. Little cheap old PP1 Watergate, Georgia Crackers playing us back off the mountain. We're doing a shootout. I'm saying rail, 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 and they're saying, whatever, saying 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So we're trying to break over the top. We lock up and we tie up over and over and over. So I was like, use it as an opportunity. I said, hey man, do you feel like you're going to blow up? You're going to have any problems or failures or issues? I said, if you've game for this and Georgia Cracker's game for this, let's keep going. Because like they had already went through all the pairs and we were first and second spot. We were the last two that was, this was going to be the winner.
Pick a winner.
So they were done with the race and they couldn't pick a winner. So I was like, so let me experiment a little. So I started rolling around my dial-a-bird at the time that we were messing with then too. When we had first started doing the dial-a-bird itself, not the peak, but the bird. I started raising different carrier levels. I started experimenting to see what, because it's so close of a draw, I wanted to see what could slip it over the top, what could bring it higher. So I've done everything I could do. And out of the stuff I could do, variable bird, all these different things, DC was probably about the most helpful to try to push over. But I was never able to take over the gate and win. So I was like, okay, one more thing. Let me try one more thing. So I unplugged the studio microphone that I was using. It sounded great. It sounded awesome. Big bass, big heavy sound, but it sounded awesome. Plugged in a CB microphone. Just a good sounding CB microphone that would work with the type modifications that we were doing. And I think at the time it might have been a static 575, which has a wide frequency response. I keyed up, rail, done the shootout, done the key down, and dominated it. His voice wasn't heard. You couldn't hear a whimper from him, not a whisper. You couldn't tell he was in the background. And from that moment on, I said, never again. I'll never go back to the studio mic route. And we realized it's because of all that energy. Like, say, if this thing passed the frequency response, which the PR40 is not this wide, but say it passes from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, all that width brings the energy out. So it's like you're speaking in the back, and everybody's kind of front and present and center. So you stretch all that frequency and all that span, it pulls you off in the background. There's no focus. So from that moment on, we literally started focusing on energy focus. We wanted the fidelity, but we wanted to be the station that was bringing it front and center through the pile, beating everybody else. I wanted my audio to be the one that's cutting through and winning the shootout, winning the key down, but still keeping the fidelity in the process.
So you change the cut patterns of the mic.
Yeah.
So you went to a different mic, so you're injecting different audio, and it changed the response.
Yeah. And then we literally started focusing our chains, in the audio, and literally testing for those purposes, maintaining our fidelity, because we want to get as much fidelity and hi-fi as we can get, that type of sound, but we want to do it at the point of not taking away.
Sacrifice gain at areas that we didn't want to sacrifice for that. So
energy focused, really is where it was. And plenty of good examples. You might hear like a incredible sounding hi-fi station out there over the air. They just sound absolutely awesome. But how many times you heard that hi-fi station sound, and then you're like, man, I wish this so-and-so would shut up, man. Can he be quiet so I can hear this hi-fi station? I really wish this guy would pipe down so I can hear this hi-fi station. Why does this guy got to be quiet so you can hear this hi-fi station? Why do you got to cut the volume up to 1 or 2 hours louder to hear how incredible this hi-fi station sounds, instead of keeping the volume that all them stock microphones and everybody else out here was running at, at the same level, So, that a lot of the guys that, have that wide band, they sound great with the volume up and when they're by themselves. I didn't want to be that way. I wanted to be the one that sounded awesome at the same level of volume. I want to be just as loud, if not louder, than everybody else out there, and still maintain the fidelity. And that's the path we pushed, And
yep.
It's what we continue to strive to do today. Improve and get better at that.
So right now, you would have arguably one of the largest amplifiers in Georgia.
With what now?
You would have arguably one of the largest amplifiers in Georgia. Would you agree with that statement?
Probably in the U.S. I don't think anybody in the U.S. that, and this is not me trying to be cocky, but just with what I'm running, being completely front and center. The only other one would be Budweiser. And he's not running and hasn't been running for years. And maybe he builds the 8-tuber he planned on building, but 415s would be above, as far as I know, anything out there. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know of anything more.
I didn't think you were going to make that dramatic of a statement, but
yeah.
Okay.
I have never really put it out there, but there's enough people that know, and I would rather share and people know what's out there, what's around. I've shared a lot of pictures, a lot more, a lot less private than most, but I'll put it out there. Maybe it convinces other people to,
They look close enough at the pictures, they can see the chimneys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're just down the hole.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
we've got a test for that too coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're not talking about the future. I'm just saying right now you're down in the hole.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but still.
Hey, but you got your own private pond.
Oh yeah, that's right. Definitely working with a disadvantaged location, but it ain't put a limp in me though.
We're gonna get a real world.
I've made it through whatever so far. It's been competitive with anything out there. So
yeah, we're gonna get. And of course, he's already had plenty of real world tests, but we're gonna get a real world direct location for location test soon enough to see what makes a difference, whether or not it is affecting it in a major way. So yeah,
and I do believe it is, but I do believe I got enough to pull out, what I need, and still have headroom, still maintaining quality.
I can argue that it wouldn't be as major of a way as as what other people would think, because it's still at the realm of competitive, at competitiveness, I guess is what you'd say.
It made it a little bit more uphill. Like I had to make some beam upgrades, had to really pay close attention to height, had to make sure my power thresholds on point. Had to find
every last 16th of a dB.
Yeah. We had to try to take it off. But I can run with Ebony King, King Snake, anybody out there, and I'm sure Ebony King and King Snake, either one of them guys. And, that's going to be my top 3 in Georgia, And I would say either one of them guys would tell you the same thing I did. We'd be all out there and we'd all be running together. And Mother Nature can put either one of us on top, D-Wayne going to be bringing it out there. JB said he's upgrading.
So I was going to segue into that. So when are we going to start having a conversation about what you're doing?
We got a project we're working on.
I want to go see it. I want to get this out of the way because I want to go see that and I want to go get dinner.
I suppose I'll say it just since D-Rail said something somewhat unorthodox. So I haven't told anybody. Everybody's been guessing. But I am going for the largest generally known
beam
antenna built.
There, thank you.
120 foot is what it is. 116 foot was what Motor Mouse was. I'm going 120 foot.
You just had to put that extra 4 feet on him.
Yeah.
You could have just made it 117.
Somebody else going to have to go 130 or 140 to beat it. But it will have
Hey, John, Deluna, you heard that, didn't you?
It will have a standing point.
He is the king of antenna point.
Yeah. It will have a standing point of being the longest 11-meter beam on the band for whatever period of time that takes.
How many elements? 75.
That someone takes to dethrone me. Right now, I'm still in the iteration points of that. We're looking at between 11 and 14. So I'm deciding the different the different patterns on which one's going to work out the best for me. So that's more information than I've told anybody. But yeah, I'm not coming out half step. I'm coming
cool
out
thing
with a
is
bang.
it's going to be you'll probably be on the air by the time this is released anyway. So
yeah, this is
that's what I'll be working on.
4 months from now.
Oh yeah.
And what we're working on right now is 4 months down the road.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's so weird to be in the position where I'm doing that kind of thing. Like I've been out now for a month and nobody's even noticed on YouTube that I'm not home.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've got
videos lined up, sitting there waiting.
I could release a video every day for like the next. So that's the thing with the Patreons is they get all of this stuff like as soon as it's happening. So the only way to track what I'm doing every day is to be a Patreon member. But
nice.
I mean,
so you might get a Patreon.
40
they're leaking on Patreon. Hey, all you Patreon subscribers, you better hide it.
It's going to be probably a 48-hour release. They'll get it 2 days early, and then it'll actually come out on the YouTube channel for everybody else to enjoy. But and that's like kind of saved me several times because I'll put a video up, and they watch it and they'll come back and they're like, "Hey man, you had a spot in the video for like 3 minutes where there was no video." No, I didn't know that.
Let me fix that real quick.
Let me fix that really fast. Or, the video actually had an hour and a half worth of black at the end of it because you forgot to crop the end of the video. Oh, let me fix that.
Let me fix that real quick.
So you haven't figured out what size motor Darren's running with his transmission there. So
right. So, there is no excuse for displacement. More displacement's always good. You can put more nitro plate voltage on whatever, but I mean...
you'll see it, I guess, shortly. So,
well, then how about we just keep that where it needs to be, not in the public venue? Yeah.
Hey, we can put it out on Front Street. I don't care. It don't matter.
Please tell me you're doing something like crazy, like you're going to do like 15 35,000s or something.
We ain't going that crazy.
4CW 250,000.
Yeah.
4CV, 4CV 250,000.
Yeah, 4CV 250. I missed
just
what's great? I missed out on 10 of those. But yeah, that's a whole other
Voice
story.
of America, I'm sure you've seen that.
You would not believe the conversations that I've had trying to force some of these things to happen. It would have been a whole different world than some of this stuff. But regardless, there's always the realm
So back
of the
to this
imagination.
engine size,
Yeah.
We're at. Yeah, I'm.
you don't have to put it out there if you don't want to.
No, I don't mind at all.
That's up to
Yeah.
you. That's up to
I'm
you.
coming out with a
No,
pair.
a pair. What'd you say?
Pair 800s.
Pair
800s.
No, we're going pair. We're going up there. Oh, I guess I am.
Yeah.
We said it in the video.
It's
You heard
bleeded
it.
out. Yeah, he had it in there, but y'all wasn't listening basically. So it is what
It's
it
all
is.
good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I don't care at all. Yeah, but yeah. It's,
So, what was the year that you guys moved out of the shack and moved 20
three-
feet away over here to this?
Three-
This is
actually
the
about-
nicest CV shop, short of Walcott's, I've been in. Period. Walcott, they've got a little bit more floor space going that direction. It's
Yeah.
about the same width, but their back end for install is massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
And we plan maybe in the future do like a little lean-to, toss setup, one or two, fit one or two trucks in there and then do the paving, but that'd be our.
As far as
over
bench,
time.
reception area, and the way
Yeah.
this is laid out, I love it. Absolutely
Yes, sir.
love the space. When did you guys make the transition over here?
About 3 years ago. Wouldn't you say? 3
Yeah,
years ago?
yeah, I would say so.
2.5.
It took
something
you
like
about
that.
a year to get this all put together.
Oh, it was longer, way longer than that, actually.
Probably 2 years. It was.
even longer than that if you consider the.
I mean, just steady work.
But that was just literally. We bought it on a
Couple
deal.
years,
We
at
literally
least.
just bought it randomly on a deal. We really had.
We had it like 7 years before we moved in. It was bad.
For argument's sake, we've had at least 10 chances to expand. We had a whole nother company wanted to come in and franchise us out. He had I think 8 or some odd truck stops. He wanted to put us in every single one of the truck stops he could. But it was just one of those situations where it's just not a place or a direction we wanted to go.
No.
That would be like me going out and having 10 employees and start
Yeah.
cranking out
Well,
boxes.
I mean,
It's
it would have been
insane.
him moving somewhere, me moving somewhere, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. But it was not a thing or a decision we wanted to make. Sure, could we have made money? Yeah, but
And
is
it-
it something we wanted to do, or something that would track with our vision for our business? No. What we plan on doing is building a business for our family. Basically, we're literally building something that we can say pass on to
So
our.
you own from what? The fence line or the tree line there all the way out to the highway? Or out
Yeah.
to the road?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
all
all
the way back
directly
around, all
across,
the
and
cut
then,
around. Yeah.
directly all the way to the interstate, all the way over here.
Wow.
The whole frontage.
So now, did your dad buy that up?
We
then?
bought it.
No, we
You
bought
it. Yeah.
He had an opportunity to buy it years ago, but he
He could have got it for a lot less than we paid for it. It'd
a lot
have been
less.
nice if he'd have got it 25 years ago.
Hey, you know what they say about
I think it's
land?
like
The
100
Sons
grand.
Are making any more of it? Might as well buy it.
It was 100 grand back when he was looking at it, so so
Right.
it'd have been nice back then. But that's interstate property for you. They proud of it. But to us, we ain't going nowhere. 164 is where we've always been. It's where we plan to stay. So and like Darren said, we have lots and lots of opportunity to branch out, more employees, more work. But we've always liked it personal, with our customers and knowing every single thing that goes out of here. I'd rather have an awesome reputation, make a comfortable living, than to be rich and then not know, not know what's going out
Yep.
the door. And that caused separation with a few people we've had in and out,
Yeah.
We definitely try to maintain.
So I'm in the same
Something to
boat.
stand behind.
I have
Yeah.
people say, "Well, you need to hire more help."
Yeah.
Good. Where do I find that person?
Yeah.
And then when are they going to work to my standard that I want to put out the door? That's really hard. I mean, it's really. You guys are family.
Yeah.
You've known each other basically since birth. You understand how the other one thinks.
Oh yeah.
Or am I going to go find that other person?
Me and Darren balance well too. Like you'll have a perspective here, I got a perspective.
I've been watching the
We
dance
come
all
together.
day long,
Yeah,
and yeah.
Yeah, we've been very blessed and fortunate to not be a brother. I mean, we had plenty of our fights when we were little. Now, we were brothers. We're brothers. But we've really come together and very open-minded to both of our perspectives. And come together with an agreement.
Yeah, we can take a
So-
thought process, like a direction he wants to go, and I can help actualize that, or I can take an actualization or something I'm trying to actualize, and Daryl, no, let's not do that. That's a little.
This is
far
not
out there.
practical, or whatever.
Here's a not practical circuit and custom building. Who knows? I might convince him one day.
Oh no, we're doing that. You know,
Not specific. I'm talking about the mounting.
Oh, all the circuits. Yeah. He wants to remote all the circuits. You know, variable bird, variable peak, and all these type of controls.
Not remote them specifically. We just have an extension.
External adjustments on a different piece rather than outside the radio.
Yeah.
And to me, I think, you know, RF, squills, hums, you know, all these connections coming out. And yeah, I mean, maybe it can be made to work, but it's just like another moving part or something to break or mess up or possibly get a squill or hum or, you know, whatever.
So there'll have to be a lot of iterations in that if we ever do it.
But what we will do, you know, and it is coming soon. I actually had somebody reach out to me this morning. You know, we got a couple of people we're going to do them for. We can build our MP3 circuit, you know, our MP3 with line level recording and our dual monitor hookup. So we could put that in a device that's external, and that's extremely marketable, because how long have these junk PP1 terrible sounding water gates, how long have they been around? Forever. You know, and you get this guy that records you and he cuts it off and he plays it back, and I'm going to say it because I don't think he'll get mad at me. I don't think he will, you know, but like say 7 in Colorado, he's got a playback. He'll record you, he'll play you back, he'll play it back. You can hear who's on top. And I'll say this, that's all that matters. You know, if he plays you back and you're doing a shootout someone on the Super Bowl, as long as you can figure out who's on top, that's all that matters with that playback. But does it play back with fidelity? No, absolutely not. You know, and a lot of people want to hear what their station sounds like, and they hear something like that, and they're like, oh, does my stuff sound like that, man?
So,
you know, then they get questioning, you know.
I live in an environment where I really don't have anybody I can go get a radio check from.
Yeah.
Or get a decent line level
Circuit
recording.
Like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't. So if I was to go change how my station sounds, I got to wait till the summertime.
Yeah.
And then I got to wait to talk to Motormouth.
Yeah.
Because he's got a line level gate, unaltered,
standard, yeah.
And it sounds, the fidelity of the recording is something that I can play back on a set of computer speakers that I know and I trust, and I know how I can adjust my audio.
Yep.
The little PP100 recording, oh, that's what you sounded like. No, it's not.
No, that is not what I sound like.
And then the Mother Nature's changed between when that recording is changed and when the guy's trying to play it back, and maybe it's...
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. Well,
maybe he doesn't quite have the 415,000 dominant ass whoop station that is going to allow him to be able to play back to a fidelity where I'm going to be able to take an audible cue from it to see what I want to change.
Somebody might be keying on his playback that's playing you. You know, he's getting keyed on in the process and you can't even hear it.
Or the cell phone gate.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to hold my cell phone with a camera up there.
Yeah. And
that's better than nothing. And if you're wanting to know who won the fight, that's a good way.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But if you want to use a radio check to be able
as
to
a
modify your
reference,
change,
it's
zero.
There's no standard.
Yeah.
There's no
And here's
standard.
here's an argument's sake, for reference sake. If anybody wanted to compare and kind of decide that stuff for themselves, they could decide and set up a they just could decide and set up a station and say we're going to go ahead and do a recording, right? So okay, well, which recording is the best? This one, or this one? You could literally go back in the iterations of every single within the past year plus of Derail's YouTubes and actually go to the very end of the gate, the end of the YouTube video, and listen for probably the past minute or so.
This has only been for a couple years though. That
I said the past year. That's what I said.
Yeah.
So you can listen for about a year at the end of the gate of what every one of our radios sound like. So you can actually listen to our monitor and actually decide for yourself, hey, do I like, does this sound like an actual radio? Like that, and you could actually compare it. And we've had
if we say like a video, we got new updates, they can literally go back to what the videos was the previous one before it said new updates, go to the one that's got new updates, and literally like you did, computer speaker they trust, nice headphones they trust.
Play it over. We play over sound.
Literally go back and forth.
If we ever listen to it for ourselves.
They want to be even more particular, take a screen recording of that one, pause the screen recording, go to the other one, take another screen recording of that, and literally have it simultaneously, put it side by side.
So you can hear from each one of our radios a line level recording, a standardized sample of what our audio sounds like on every radio we finish. And then that's how Derail makes changes on his own station. Years ago, he used to talk to like other people. Hey, have them talking for 3 and 4 hours on the radio, talking about a new mod.
Hey, what does this sound like? What does that sound like? I had good people.
I did it in my 20s too when I was playing around with radios, and I don't do radios anymore. And don't call me asking questions about radios, by the way.
Yeah, I had good friends, good locals, good help. Literally stay up all night with me, just literally testing audio stuff. But that is a big another, elevation in what we did. Is literally putting a monitor on everything. Monitor on my home station, monitors on the shop station, monitors on everything to literally listen to everything over the air that we do. And that made changes to microphones, changes to sound, changes on the spot. Literally, like any customer that walks in this front door, every radio I've tuned today, they've been on my monitor at the same time as spectrum analyzer, oscilloscope, and all the meters. I've listened to every one of them over the air, and I know without getting a radio check on 19 saying, somebody give me a radio check, that they're all perfect. You know, they're where they should be. And if I need to be any more particular, like if I'm building something more custom, 5-band EQ, custom audio chain, I'll pass that microphone to a customer. I will let him speak on his radio, and then I'll make what subtle modifications I need to make from the differences of my voice to his voice to make it blend perfectly for him, you know, in something that's, you know, more in depth, you know, more critical. But yeah, I mean, that helped us elevate a lot. But back to what that is a device that we will eventually release that literally will allow someone to have a box, kind of like, you know, people like think they had a Redman box, you know, from maybe some Redman CD shop or whoever it was, put a PP1 in like a little box here. This will have our MP3 with line level recording, so you can record line level. You'll have
you guys are building those in house, right?
Yeah, we're gonna we build it from the circuit from scratch. But it literally and accolades.
This is a bunch of circuits that we're actually doing on this
passing
one.
some accolades along.
A bunch of circuits on this one.
We started the MP3 portion of that circuit all by ourselves from a thought and idea. And I know I'm getting off from what I was fixing to say there, but the MP3 circuit started with a guy named Hound Dog. I think you met him today, you know, actually coming here in the shop.
Yeah.
And Hound Dog's bought, you know, 10, 15 radios with me through the years and had a lot of different stuff. And we had this toy in his radio that he liked and he would work with. And then, you know, he might decide tomorrow that he wants a different toy. So he'd come back to re-upload this same toy like 10 times. And I'm like, why do we keep re-uploading this? And Darren is actually the one that had the thought. He said, hang on a second, Hound Dog. And then he grabbed a little MP3 jack, a little circuit, you know, threw it together, you know, it squealed and hummed for started with it. We put a couple, you know, some capacitors there.
A little bit of magic.
Little stuff to it. Popped it in there, stuck it in, and the next thing you know, we're playing live sound straight over a cell phone, over the air, you know, there.
Well, let's check on this guy. Let's take a quick break, and we can come back to this in just a minute. What do you guys think?
Sounds good. Let's see what he's got going on.
All right,
Yes, sir.
Well, that was a fun little break.
Oh, yeah.
I'm horrible with names. What was this gentleman's name again? So we give
308. Yeah,
308.
Chris. Yeah. Good,
He
good
got
people.
a lot of energy, man.
Hey, oh, yeah. You remember I was talking about staying up all night doing the audio test?
Yeah.
That's one of the main. I would stay up all night long with, you know, testing this, testing that, you know.
Just a good dude.
So like he told you out there, he said, no, it can't get any better. Oh yeah, watch this. Oh yeah, it did get better. You know, so you know exactly like what he said. So yeah, he's got to see us progress. You know.
What do you guys think your future is here? I mean, my biggest fear is that people like myself, I've given 15, 20 years of my life to what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And I've dedicated the last half of my life to this. You guys are midlife, beginning of midlife, both of you.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna make.
Do you think you're going to be able to pass this on to do you think radio is going to be able to be supporting your children?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the plan if they want. We're going to make it third
if they
generation.
want, of course. Let's just say that way. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
If they want, we're going to go for third generation.
The cool thing about us and the way we work is we absolutely have to try anything and everything that has any potential whatsoever. So for us...
No. What I'm talking about is the viability of the hobby as far as there being enough people in it.
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at, to be honest. It expands, it changes. Like, let's say there's always something to be different. There's always something that's going to be new. There's actually, as unfortunate it is to say, even if the hobby completely failed, which I would hope and pray it never does, because we're going to do everything we can to foster it.
Right, same here. Yeah.
There's always going to be drivers.
But there's always going to be drivers. We have
Yeah.
business in the front door regardless of that. So it's not... We have enough avenues in our business that we stay busy in multiple facets. So it works out good for us in that aspect. So we're highly specialized, but still also diversified at the same time. So it's kind of complicated. But as far as, say, like, technology aspect, not from like a volume of business aspect. As far as the technology aspect, we're always digging into the next thing. So I mean, if say 10 years from now, everything's completely digital. We're going to have another setup.
That's where
on
it's
the
going.
digital.
It's
And we're
going to
already
digital.
in the mixes of working on that.
That's the slow transition for CB, just catching up to the ICOMs and the rest of the transceivers that's already moved to digital.
Yeah.
So that is the
But
next endeavor
we're trying
for
to do
us,
it in
you know.
a much better way. So,
Yeah. And we've gotten aligned with the proper engineers, to help, pull that along too. So that's some stuff kind of working in the background slowly, but IC is developing, stuff like that. So there's we're ready for it. We're going to keep moving with technology and keep bringing forward, keep pushing further. But
Is
that's
there
what you got to
any
do.
plans to, in the future, maybe start developing a little bit of hi-fi equipment or some kind of interface units that'll work with some of the modern ham radios to maybe spread this love outside of what you're doing now?
We've certainly considered, because that is obviously something worth looking into to branching out. That's just one more aspect of the hobby to push further to all these other type of operators. At the point now, we haven't, just because we're already kind of, you got the key down guys, you got the hobbyists, you got the amp builders, you got the truckers, you got all these different avenues, and just with that, it's
not-
like everything we
yeah.
can do to keep up.
it's not
at
a
this
door that we
point,
have closed, but it is an option.
we haven't opened
It
yet.
isn't. Yeah, it's not one we've opened yet. It
But-
would not be very difficult for us to open.
And certainly
So-
being
And keep
forced.
in mind, I know that a lot of what you do here is circuit manipulation internally on the radio. A lot of these radios that are produced today through the auxiliary jack, you've got your radio inputs and all those other direct, unfiltered, unmitigated, directly to the audio circuit, so you could plug something into.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's something. Yeah,
And,
we're
and,
aware
and
of
as
that for
we
sure.
push further into the digital route, that stuff's going to line up with where the ham rigs have already been.
Right.
So it's going to kind of help fall into place, and that CB might be that small transition to getting familiarized, with what everything else is anyway. So I could definitely see it moving there in the future. Right now, like Darren said, we ain't opened that door yet just because of busy, but.
You guys are really busy.
Yeah.
Really, really,
and
really busy.
to be honest with you, today was, so or slow. Sometimes it's, it wasn't a fast day. It definitely it was more of a relaxed, hanging out, chilling. But we're still,
I'm
still
grateful that
comfortable
we
and
got
busy.
this day.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I got to
Yeah.
spend time intimately with you guys, just watching you work and
Yeah.
watching what you do here, and
Yeah.
understand. How many employees at your prime when you guys are in the other shop? How many people did you have working for you?
6, but I definitely wouldn't call it prime. I'd call it slipping. Stuff slipping that we didn't. That was harming our reputation over time. As of now, just with the 3 that we have here, me, Darren, and Casey at the moment, all together, just having us, we're more successful than we ever were at any point in our past. Now. But there were still 12 by 16 buildings supporting 6 families at one time. So even back then, it was still nice. It was good. But it was just not to the standard and the reputation that my father always upheld. And it's just due to different business practices, skill levels, how they want to do business as opposed to us. And a big part of that might be because, if someone's got no stake in the company or it's not their business, they might not have as much motivation to care.
Just cashing out for the day or cashing out the business in general.
Yeah, some people's there to make money, and then some people cares about what's there. What my dad always said, and man, he really raised us good and really taught us right. And the foundation here is he said he'd always say, one good customer will bring you 10 more good customers. One bad customer will turn 100 away. And that's a true statement. You make somebody mad, you screw somebody over, he's gonna holler about it to everybody down the road, everywhere. And nowadays it'll be online or wherever, however, so there's lots of good statements. And what he would always say, and the same thing we tell customers now, is we want a customer for life. We're not looking like this dude that's passing through this Georgia deal and we're going to try to make some money off of him and send him down the road. Our goal is to make that gentleman our advertisement. We want to do the very best job we can possibly do, because that when he goes out there, he keys that microphone and unsolicited, somebody says, "Man, what are you talking on?" And as soon as he comes back, that's advertisement for us. And if we get customers like that out there that sound like that, we got a job for life.
And that,
and so
the cool thing about that could be whether it be a driver, whether it be a Super Bowl operator, whether it be a guy who operates on 28, any skip talker, whether it be a guy who's on the key down field and like, man, your audio sounds different than somebody else's. It doesn't matter what it is. That recognition itself is the advertisement that we need. We don't need the advertisement where we're out there, hey, look at me, what am I got going on, whether it's on the radio or whatever. It's more along the lines of we let our work speak for itself. We don't key up on the radio every day and talk on the radio and try to get business to come in our front door. We have a backlog of it.
We haven't done
hey, you guys got a radio set up at the #1 CB shop in the United States right now, the brick and mortar kind of setup? No, we got a little monitoring radio, but it's plugged in over there someplace with you. I just wanted to talk to you guys on the way in. You're like, no. It's not what we do here, man. No.
We do have a
and if somebody does call us, I say, hey, man, I'm 15 miles on the road, just want to check, make sure everything's working correctly, we'll cut it on. We'll holler at them, we'll wave. But typically, we're never running power. We're on a barefoot radio, whatever, So every moment we've wanted to set some up, and you've seen some stuff, we haven't really had the time. And then even if we did take the time and we got it all there, we don't have the time to key it, or utilize it, use it, and certainly not to advertise. And that's something else we made a point to is like, my father never advertised himself. We brought an individual in that worked with my dad, actually started, a year or two before I started, and parted ways in 2015-ish, early 2016, somewhere in there. And that's all he did. He advertised on the radio for us. And since that separation, we have not set a single advertisement on the radio because I want our work to speak for itself. I don't want to be out there break channel, somebody come in and see me and spend some money. It's hey, they know what we are, they know what we're about.
Come on, you don't want to set it up like a hooker house where they got a recording going every 10 minutes. Come on, I get it. I think everybody out there gets it. So guys, I can't thank you enough for spending basically the last 2 days with me.
Yep, yes sir. And we've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Let's shake them up. Let's get out of here and let's go get something to eat.
Hey, sounds good, man. Appreciate the opportunity, man.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, we'll see you.